Good morning, guys. Sheena Quick here with Quick Out the Blocks.
Vashti heard Carolina Blitz.
So we're doing something a little different. We decided to give you guys a quick little morning after recap over after last night's loss. Vashti, there were a couple of stats that became kind of, that came to the forefront that I hadn't necessarily thought about yesterday. I didn't realize that the Panthers actually didn't even punt.
Yeah, and Greg Olsen was pissed about that. I don't know if y'all saw his post-game interview, but he cursed. He was pissed. I think the whole team was pissed. And you come out and you have that type of offensive outing and you don't punt and you don't win, there's a problem. And, Cam even said it. They have to figure it out.
They really do have to figure it out. One of the quotes that he said during his post-game interview, he mentioned we have to look in the mirror and figure out who we are not. And I think that's very powerful. It's the first time that you actually sense just the full air of frustration all the way throughout that locker room. I would say that the Panthers are still hopeful. They have a pretty tough stretch coming up here in the next couple of weeks. They have 3 really tough road games. They have to go down to New Orleans. They have to go to Cleveland, which, some people may, kind of discount that game. I don't think the Browns are to be played with right now. And next week, they go to Tampa, which, through the aerial assault that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are always a threat to make, the Panthers might not be able to defend themselves from that, especially if Dante Jackson is not able to go.
Defense has been a problem on this team. It is a huge concern of mine. It's been a concern really all season, but in those wins, they've been able to overcome average or subpar defensive performances because the offense is so much better. And at this point, you have to think about, are the Carolina Panthers wasting Newton's best years? Right now, he's playing the best football, arguably, since his 2015 MVP season. And so now it's like, what do you do? Do you make a change mid-season as far as, coaching, or do you ride this out? Right now, to me, though, is the time this year, next year, and maybe the year after. Prime seasons for Cam Newton, prime time for them to try to really legitimately make a Super Bowl run. And if they're going to do that, they're going to have to improve this defense.
Hands down, I think you hit the nail on the head. A lot of people have called for Eric Washington's job. It is his first season as a defensive coordinator, but the amount of talent that he has at his hands. When the signing of Eric Reed took place, we took a look a couple weeks. At the time, Thomas Davis was still out on suspension, but we took a look at what the Panthers' starting defensive roster was going to look like. And weeks ago, to me, it was scary. I felt like, with the high potent offense and, a stingy defense, this was the year for the Panthers to legitimately challenge the New Orleans Saints for the NFC South Division and perhaps make a really deep playoff run.
But they can't do that with the way they're playing defensively. The pass rush is not consistent. Secondary has been decent, but
the blown coverages yesterday were very costly.
They missed Dante Jackson so badly, and you really have to question everybody on the defense. You have to question the schemes. You have to question the morale of the defense. I know they say constantly that they're confident, but can you really be that confident when you're having these type of outings? And you also have to question the push and the urge from a coaching standpoint.
Right.
Because coaches are game planners and they're schemers, but they're also motivators. And if you're not motivating your team to get out there and play at a level an elite level, then something has to give.
And head coach Ron Rivera is a defensive guy, so this has to be extremely nerve-wracking for him. I'm interested in hearing what he, as well as Coach Washington, have to say this morning in regards to last night's game. And just looking back over the 5 losses, 4 of those 5 losses have been one-possession games.
And that's the frustrating part, knowing that you should have and probably could have won games. Legitimately, the Panthers could only really have 2 losses. I think New Orleans and Pittsburgh. Outside of that,
Pittsburgh was
should have won. I'm sorry, not New Orleans. Falcons, and Pittsburgh.
That was one possession too, because they had a chance on that last drive to win the game.
But it didn't seem as close as the others, in my opinion. And it was still early in the season. I don't know. Pittsburgh definitely got their butts whooped. I think that Atlanta loss, they would have probably split with Atlanta anyway, just because, you know, that division rival.
Yeah.
So, but outside of that, the Panthers could only have 2 losses on the season, and it has to be looked at. Now the question is, it's so tense around here.
Very tense. It's very different locker room. It's a very different media workroom. It'll just be interesting to see how they finish out this last quarter of the season. NFC South wildcard race is still wide open. Panthers had a commanding position in that, but that definitely changed yesterday with the loss to Seattle. In the event of a tiebreaker, they would lose the tiebreaker to Seattle. They would also lose a tiebreaker to Washington. So just very interesting times around here. It'll be interesting to see how they bounce back on the road these next 2 weeks, as well as coming back here at the bank for Monday Night Football to face the New Orleans Saints.
Big thing now is we are waiting on Rivera and Washington, and so make sure you're staying tuned in to Quick Out of the Blocks, Carolina Blitz. We will be bringing you updates from today's pressers and all week. So
keep pounding, stay tuned, keep blitzing, stay quick, and we'll see you guys next week.